today have all kinds of things to occupy their minds, from tablets to video games to remote control toys. But one company aims to give them something to awaken their imaginations. After a wildly successful Kickstarter campaign, Candylab Toys now makes one simple thing: wooden cars. They're fun and hip, modern and retro, appealing to both kids and adults. I met up with the talented toy makers in their Brooklyn, New York workspace. What does it mean to be a toy maker in 2017?
So we're designers, we're engineers, we are retailers. We have these ideas, almost like little movies that we play in our heads that represent the seed inspiration of our stories.
For anyone used to the toys of today, often prefab and plastic, these little cars feel like they're something new, yet old at the same time. They're wooden, handcrafted, made with an exceptional attention to detail, and designed not to occupy the mind, but to inspire it. Flad, where did the idea for this incredible toy company come from?
My wife and I at the time felt that the toys that we had access to were not quite engaging in a sense that adults could actually partake in play. We felt that there's something too guided in terms of licensing and a pre-existing storyline. So we figured that there's a way to combine real cultural cues.
So the idea of playing with cars as a kid, was that something you would do?
Absolutely.
Vlad Dragushin founded the company. His passion for both design and for cars were driving forces, but developing just the right look and feel was a long and winding road.
The hard part was coming up with a design, because it's always difficult to see, hey, what would a kid like, and what would make it compelling to them to play for a while, and what would be an adult sort of interest, a grown-up as a parent, to actually partake in that.
Gayle Helder is Candylab's industrial designer. He was immediately drawn to the company for its compelling designs.
Right off the bat, there is the beautiful colors. I think that's a really key thing that really helps them pop off the shelf. And then when you dig in deeper, there's a lot of small details that are very well considered. So you have small iconic moments pulled from actual cars that you can see.
And then this body can be flipped.
From the very first model, each car has been designed and crafted not to duplicate an actual car, but to magically capture its essence.
We designed this kind of sports car, orange car that we started out with. And that has a stance where the nose is sort of diving down a little bit and the rear is sort of lifted up. That's because at that era, and that particular model that I was inspired by, which is a 1967, they have spring leaves on the back. And they had a heavy engine in the front, which naturally, after a few years, the car starts to dive down a bit.
You're talking about such specific details in a car that a child would play with. So it really is important to you that it's attractive to an adult as well.
It is important, because obviously a 5-year-old wouldn't know about a 65 GTO, but his father or his grandfather could tell him, because they will notice that. But that's exactly the point of our toys. We want to have that connection to real-world experiences. This is actually carved out of a solid block.
They hope these elements help create a context that enriches a child's experience beyond just playtime.
We want to give them enough of a backstory that they're interesting, but not too much of a backstory, because we want them to still have their own imagination kind of play a big role in this. When we start designing, we do start putting pen to paper.
The idea for each product line starts with a sketch. Then a prototype is made using 3D printing. From there, a wooden model is constructed. It can take up to 30 tries before the final version is complete. And the design team is always looking for inspiration.
I think throughout the entire process, we're keeping an eye on the research, looking at photos of existing cars, going to events if we can, where we can see these things in person, and finding bits of inspiration from that cultural era that we're inspired by.
From the numbers painted on the side to the fabrics they choose, even the real rubber tires. Everything is important to the stories these toy makers want to tell. When a family buys a car, what do you hope they get out of that moment?
We hope they get hours of fun, and we hope they get some really interesting conversations about what these cars represent as an idea. And we hope that they remember some road trips and maybe reenact that on their play mat. And we think that is the essence of play, establishing that connection, that moment that allows you to recreate some moments that you cherish.
And we've got the new collection here, the Outlaws, with us. There are 5 in this series. They're great. And by the way, pick them up. These are heavy cars, and kids really want to play with them. Prices range $24.99 all the way up to above $100 for the collector's items. And I'm telling you, every adult that's picked these up has done that. You got to play with them.
And I love the fact they recognize adults like toys, too.
That's right.
I like toys on TV.
Well, maybe you'll be lucky you can keep one of these, Anthony.